As health and wellness providers, we know that better patient outcomes require a whole person, multidisciplinary approach that we just can't provide on our own. That's why I've started the Wellness Center Creators Podcast. I'll be bringing you interviews with experts, tips, tricks, secrets, resources, systems, and solutions so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. And creating your wellness center won't feel like starting over.
Do you ever wish you had an extra set of hands to help out around your practice? I did too. And then I found Jane. Jane is the practice management software I use every day in my clinic and is that second set of helping hands. My team and I save a lot of time using Jane with more efficient workflows in our day-to-day, including booking clients, charting, and payment processing. And really, I look forward to logging into my software each day because I know I can manage my entire practice from one spot. If you're looking to make the switch to a new practice management software, Jane might just be the practice management software you're looking for. You can head on over to jane.app to learn more, book a demo, and connect with a member of their team. Don't forget, if you're ready to get started, you can also mention that I sent you, my name's Kendall, in your sign-up notes for a 1-month grace period. Now for today's episode. Welcome back, everyone, to the Wellness Center Creators Podcast. Today on the show, we have Diamond. She is a 3-time CEO and has started and taken companies to 7 figures. She is deeply invested in supporting female entrepreneurs impact the world more with their work by building a business in a way that supports their dream lifestyle. She teaches women how to identify the biggest problems with the growth of their business and helps them scale while being deeply connected to their pleasure centers in their body. Welcome, Diamond. It's so great to have you.
Hi, so great to be here, Kendall. Thank you so much for having me.
So what do you mean when you talk about the feminine and a masculine in business?
Yeah, I love this question so much. So one of the things I've seen in myself, as well as in so many of the people that I coach, is that it's really easy to almost have this polarity of, say, approach in business. So for example, I will see women when we go through time periods of wearing all our different hats. And I know you have a lot of listeners that are healthcare providers. So in like taking care of all your clients and really just showing up for that heart-to-heart connection. And then there's this thing that can happen when we're so embodied and we're working from this great heart space and this connection place. And then when it comes to doing some of the analytical stuff that we need to do in order to really analyze, in order to really scale our business and understand it, one of the things that can happen is it's so easy to get overwhelmed and want to retreat. And we can just go into this, I call it the goddess cave, but we can just go into this place where we deeply need to rest and nourish. And while that is useful and important and helpful to bring us back to balance, one of the biggest problems then is we're not in our analytical mind. We're actually not looking for that single most important place in business to laser focus on so we can get out of the circus wheel and out of that overwhelm and all of that. So it's almost like that is one pole. And another pole that I see sometimes is being so analytical and trying to solve all of the problems of the business, all of the customer support problems that come up, that we lose sight of our, say, embodied pleasure, creative self. And then we're creating and trying to solve problems purely with our brain. And we lose the ability to, say, connect to our intuitive center that as women, we have so much, say, of a gift in. So a lot of the work that I really help women do is really looking at how can we almost work almost like that yin yang symbol that a lot of people know, which really is about continually bringing both the analytical mind, for which is classically in like Chinese medicine tradition known as the masculine mind, or the more soft, creative mind, which in Chinese medicine is classically known as more the feminine mind, and how to interplay these together in our work and careers.
It sounds like integration is key, is what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things I like, the terms I like using is career recreation integration instead
I
of
love that.
work-life balance, right? Because everything flows between the two. It's like what we do in our career does bleed over into our personal life and vice versa, at least on some intellectual level or on some growth-oriented level. They're very, very connected back and forth.
Absolutely. So why do you talk about pleasure and the pleasure body when it comes to scaling business?
I think it's so, so, so important. It's one of my favorite topics because one of the things that pleasure really does for us as women is pleasure allows us to know if we are basically embodied, right? So it's really difficult to feel sensations of like, oh, just like the skin being stroked or deeply tune into a pleasurable food or the intimacy of relationship. All of these things are difficult to experience if we're not fully embodied. So pleasure is like a roadmap. It's like a marker. It's like a flag. And this flag helps us to know if we are inside and living from our embodied place or if we're not. And the reason that's important from a business perspective is when we're living from our embodied place, that's when we're tuned into our creative centers, to our intuitive centers. That's when we know we've kind of put the analytical mind a little bit on the outside so we can focus more on these other aspects. And pleasure is that flag that allows us to know if we are in touch with that part of ourselves.
So how do you help women prevent overwhelm while scaling their business? Because that has to be one of the most common experiences of female entrepreneurs and just human entrepreneurs in general.
Yeah, absolutely. So this is where putting that analytical hat on is really, really important. So I definitely talk to women a lot about anytime we put our analytical hats on, really coming at it from a place of changing our state. And so whether that is a 2-minute meditation, a 2-minute dance routine, a deep breathing, holding our child and laughing and giggling, whatever it is, something that's going to put us into a really good, relaxed state. But then going and putting on our analytical hat. And what I help women do, and I help men too more on the one-to-one basis, but my focus really is on women, is really helping them set up systems within the business so that they can at any point in time understand their stats and their business and their numbers so well that they know literally every day what the top number one thing is to work on for their business in order to produce results. And so I help women get out of that kind of overwhelmed time crunch thing, because we're so aware of all of these needs that the business has by really using data and analytics that we set up together to know what to focus on so they can stop chasing things kind of willy-nilly and really center their efforts into what's going to make the biggest impact for them.
This is extremely important, especially in the health and wellness industry, because as helping professionals, we're not often, like you were saying earlier, we're really good at this helping piece. We're good at this intuitive piece. We know how to relate to people. And a lot of times helping professionals are not learning in their graduate programs anything about the financial side of business. And so it can feel extremely overwhelming. And to be able to know, like you're saying, okay, what are the stats? It's incredibly empowering. And to be able to go to your team, if you're leading a team of people, to be able to go to them and say, this is the answer to your question. This is why this is happening in the business. This is what we need to work on in the business, right? This should be your number one focus. Here are the statistics. It's incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's like imagining that, we as business owners typically all have bad months. Like I had a month where I lost 30 grand. I had to pull 30 grand out of my savings to keep things going. And the reason I turned back so quickly and then recovered with having the best month that I had yet at that point, that very next month, was because I knew my numbers so well. So I could actually go in and say, oh, this was the problem. So sometimes it's like something super simple. Like if you have staff and all of a sudden the staff starts saying something different on the phone and people are calling, but they're actually not coming in just because of a tiny little shift on the phone. So it's like, do you have the system set up where if you have a bad month, you can pinpoint and say, oh, this is exactly where we need to say address it, as an example.
Mm-hmm. So valuable.
Hey there, this is Katie from the Jane team. If you find that you're wearing too many hats in your practice, Jane is here to help. Jane is an all-in-one practice management software designed to help you grow and manage your business. If you're wearing the admin hat all day, then Jane can help you with an intuitive schedule and client-friendly online booking that makes managing treatments quick and easy. If you're also wearing the practitioner hat, let Jane help with charting, making it an enjoyable part of your day by using shared chart templates from Jane's chart template library. And if you're also wearing the owner hat, let Jane put you at ease with helpful reports that offer valuable trends and insights on your practice. No matter what hat you're wearing today, we'd love to meet you and see if Jane is the right fit for your practice. Head to jane.app to connect with us. And don't forget, you can mention the Wellness Center Creators Podcast at the time of sign up for a 1-month grace period applied to your new Jane account. We'll see you soon.
So, what is the tactic trap that you speak about?
Yeah, I love this. And this is something that I also have, seen in myself when I was first getting my first business going about a decade ago. And I see in so many people. It's so easy to chase a tactic. And by a tactic, it could be like LinkedIn marketing, it could be TikTok marketing, it could be Instagram marketing, it could be advertising in some sort of paper. There's so many different tactics, right, that we use and that are available to us in this day and age to grow our business. And so the tactic trap there's a couple different components of this. The one is taking course after course after course to learn, okay, well, I'm going to learn how to do YouTube, and then I'm going to learn how to do TikTok. And we're chasing all of these things thinking that this one marketing thing, for example, is that thing that it's going to grow our business without actually first start by investigating and understand very, very clearly where our individual niche is, what platform in this example they're on. And then oftentimes with the tactic trap, if something's not working, if we say we're trying to get all these leads, say from Instagram, and it's not working, so frequently then we tend to say, okay, well, I need a new tactic. So then we run and we chase and we learn this new tactic and spend all this time on it. And then oftentimes that doesn't work. So the way out of the tactic trap is really to understand and pick one or two things that are where your niche is focused. And then also have systems in place for analyzing how you are doing with these things. So for Instagram, like, what happens if you change the way the look and feel of the page looks? Or what happens if you start posting more things that are personal to you? Or what happens if you start talking about a completely different topic or do more lives? Or, there's a lot of different things we can do. So having the systems in place and understanding the insights and the analytics so that we can then say, stick with a tactic long enough to actually tweak it and until it works for us. So it really is a tactic trap, is chasing all these different things instead of focusing on one or two and tweaking them until we actually get them to work for us.
And it comes back to the importance of statistics again and research, because if we take the time to understand, and sometimes, social media is changing all of the time. So there's a lot to learn and we can feel like, okay, I've got it. And then it changes, right? But if we're sort of throwing money at these different things willy-nilly and then it's not working, so we throw it in a different direction, then we throw it in a different direction, we're not actually tracking our return on that investment. And it's easy to get stuck in that trap, especially if you're a new business owner and you need clients. You need to make money. And so it's really easy to just sort of be grasping, and it ties into scarcity mindset versus abundance. And it can just take us down so quickly. So I love what you're saying about, okay, what if we actually researched this path and did a very intentional push in that direction for a reason. And then we analyze it and we see the results, and we either keep going in that direction or we find another path that is intentional.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you're saying too about like the algorithms changing on some of these platforms, because I've seen that too. And I absolutely agree that we want to have more than one tactic as far as if the algorithm changes on one platform, we want to have a backup, right? Where it's like not going to completely crash our business because of having to re-understand the new algorithm that's outside of our control. Just want to kind of piggyback off that because I think it's a really important point as well with the whole tactics, conversation.
Mm-hmm. So if someone is stuck not growing their business, right? They're feeling really stuck right now. What do you recommend they do? What's your advice?
Yeah, there's a few different things. One is put some systems in place to figure out your number one problem. If you don't know how to do that, find somebody that can. And within a context of, of say like hiring a coach, hiring say a organization that has school and online training courses, really ask that question. Like so many people, so many courses out there aren't doing that. So really ask what you're learning and make sure that it includes setting up strategic systems so you can start analyzing and figuring out what the problem is. And then the other thing that I would really say put into place as soon as you can, there's a concept by this man named Dan Sullivan. He has some books out there. One of his books is Who Not How. And it's really looking at what so many of us do that are entrepreneurs is we try to figure out the how behind everything, and we try to do it ourselves. And so the sooner we can hire people that can be our who's to actually help us figure this stuff out, the better. There's a lot of different ways we can hire people offshore to help as far as, financial overhead if you can't actually afford somebody that is in the United States, if that's where you're listening from. So that can be a solution. But even if it's 5 hours a week, even if you don't have a huge budget for it, what are the types of things that are really going to help your business? And that's largely going to be in the beginning, making sure you have your analytics for your systems, maybe hiring somebody to do that for you. If you can't figure out how to do that, do it yourself is a really, really important point. And then once you have that done, the next thing really is, and once you kind of analyze everything, to actually put together a strategic plan. And to put together your plan based upon where you want to be a year from now, and literally working backwards down to the day and build that into your calendar so that in any given day, all you're doing is doing that one thing of the day. And you're not thinking about anymore the thing that you're strategically planning to do 2, 3, 4, 5 months from now, because that's not the focus of today. That's the focus of later. And that can also help with preventing that overwhelm and wearing those hats. And there's great project management softwares out there like Asana and ClickUp that can really help you put together a calendar and a plan for your business.
That is such valuable advice, and strategic planning and intention behind what we're doing in our business is a superpower. It's an absolute superpower. So I know you have a giveaway for the listeners today, your clarity quiz. If you want to tell us more about that.
Yeah, basically this quiz is really designed to take a, big picture, bird's eye view look at your business through answering some questions to help you elicit what are the top areas that you most likely need to focus on right away. So if you have some level of strategic plan, that's not going to show up based upon the quiz. So you take the quiz and then you'll get emailed basically I think it's like a 15-page document or so that goes through and actually will tell you more about, okay, if you answered one of the questions saying this is a red flag, you need tons of help here. What does that actually mean? What do you need to be doing? What do you need to be putting in place? So you can kind of look at it as almost a guide to help you orient to the areas in your business that you should likely focus on first.
That sounds amazing and incredibly valuable to our listeners. How can they find that?
So you can find it on my website. So my website is bitchtoboss.com. And so you can find that on there if you go to bitchtoboss.com and then clarity quiz, but it is on the website. At the top, you'll see a little toolbar. And I also just like people to know when they hear my website too, like what that's about.
Tell us.
Because it is a really unique name. And we thought about, my team and I thought a lot about the name when we called it Bitch the Boss. And the reason we called it this is because of this voice that I feel like as humans we have inside of us that we label, and my team and I started labeling as, the bitch voice. And this voice is essentially the voice that tells us we can't, or we're too small, or we're too big, or we're too much, or whatever it is. So it's that voice, that nagging voice that I think every human has, that is self-doubt. And one of the things we talk a lot about in the mindset component of training is how important it is to integrate this voice. Like so many times it's like we think about this voice is bad. And it actually is oftentimes this voice that is our survival voice. That's like, oh, I'm scared of being poor. And like all of those things are valid. All of us humans have some level of fears inside of us. But how do we actually not make that voice wrong and allow that voice to be heard, but also allow a lot of other parts of ourselves, the parts that are confident, the parts that believe in ourselves, to become stronger and stronger and stronger. So that's really, just kind of the story behind the name and the brand that I like people to be aware of as well.
Thank you so much. It's been lovely having you here today. Thank you so much for your time, Diamond.
Thanks so much, Kendall. It's been lovely as well. Appreciate you.
Thanks so much for listening to the Wellness Center Creators Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Please visit our website at wellnesscentercreators.com for more show notes and additional episodes. By the way, I love hearing from listeners. Please send me an email at Kendall, KENDALL, at wellnesscentercreators.com with your feedback. And if you send me a question, maybe I'll read it on the show, anonymously, of course. Thanks so much again for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Wellness Center Creators Podcast.